extensively, and now when they get these calls that a threat might happen at their school, it hits too close to home for them.
So I just realized we had an audio malfunction, and we're just going to reset here. We are joining you here in our WSMV4 Now studio to talk about mental health tonight. It is going to be our lead story here at 10 o'clock. Our Danielle Jackson going a little deeper into the psychology at schools right now, well, not only with students but with administrators. We're talking about even the counselors. And Marius, you mentioned the number of threats, and they're fake threats that are happening all across Middle Tennessee.
And most of the threats law enforcement say are coming from out of state, but they want to let people know that if you are caught calling in one of these threats to a school, you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. They take these very, very seriously.
So it's the mere thought of something happening, and this is what our Danielle Jackson has uncovered today, that's making parents, students, and staff deal with the anxiety of all this. And now more than ever, people are reaching out to counseling services.
Some parents and their kids are feeling even more anxiety after the recent Covenant school shooting and threats made to other schools in Middle Tennessee.
With our middle school and high school students, they're just asking why, how, will I be safe? Am I going to be safe at school?
Beth Hell is the regional vice president for Centerstone, a local nonprofit that provides mental health care services. They have 125 base school therapists throughout the state. She explains how recent school incidents have played a role and why they've seen at least a 10% increase in the number of parents and students seeking services over the last year.
Asking questions, am I going to see my family at the end of the day? And depending on their age, it's hard to help them understand, how do you answer that question for them?
Many questions, Hell says, parents don't know how to truly answer.
I would say we probably have seen the biggest increase in our middle school and high school ages.
The concern surrounding gun violence and school safety is why a local mom WSMV4 recently talked to decided to homeschool her kids.
Of course, it was right after the shooting. My oldest one started getting an anxiety and was texting me while she was in class, and it got too hard for her to be there.
Despite their child's age, Hell says parents should pay attention to any recent changes in behavior.
So oftentimes it starts with things just like, not wanting to go to school, failing in subjects maybe that they used to do better in, not wanting to participate in extracurricular activities. And so parents start to see some of that.
And Danielle Jackson reporting there for us. Those signs of depression, anxiety, those are the kinds of things that there's so much online that can help you discern it, take that first step, and then go to something like a counseling service, because you don't want your kids to live in fear, and you don't want them to quit these important activities that end up really fueling who they are through the course of their lives.
Yeah, and this is something that it's called vicarious trauma. You don't have to be in that trauma to be exposed to that trauma. And a lot of people have experienced vicarious trauma with all the school shootings and all of the mass shootings that we've experienced in this country.
Before we talk about a Vanderbilt poll in a second, I wanted to mention the homeschooling piece of this. We know that the numbers, I cannot wait to hear what they really are as far as the number of registered homeschoolers for the start of this year. You remember when we had kids, when our older kids were younger, that it was just not that common. And I was at an event at the Hermitage just yesterday, and they have a huge homeschooling contingency. And they said in the last, I think it's been in the last year, if not the last 2 years, it has gone up 400%.
Wow.
The number of kids who are homeschooled and now come to the Hermitage as part of their learning center and their learning group.
Yeah, and
that's tremendous.
And it's something that's grown throughout the years. They can play athletics now. They can play high school. Yeah, they can do sports and all that. So homeschooling is becoming very common.
Yeah, it's becoming certainly more acceptable in every way, and there's just so many now, kind of like accoutrements, if you say, that are that make it a little easier for parents to actually facilitate a really healthy and robust education
but
for their child.
For parents, you have to listen to your kids. Your kids are going to want to express themselves. When they experience this type of trauma, you just have to wait for them to do it on their own.
And just welcome anything they do share, right? Acknowledge it and hear them out. So a new study from Vanderbilt found about 30% of Tennessee parents think their child has an undiagnosed mental health condition. Could be something like anxiety, depression, or ADHD. It is a 7% jump from 2019. I have to wonder, you know, is that an awareness thing, a 30% jump? Is this typical behavior? Is it atypical? Is it just that we now have a label for it?
I think
you know,
that
don't
might,
you
yeah,
wonder?
I think that might be the cause, that we might have a label for it now.
Yeah.
But it's just so important that, you know, if it's undiagnosed, it needs to be diagnosed. You have to talk to someone, because these kids are it's gonna come out some way.
Right.
This trauma is going to come out some way, and they have to control how it comes out.
So don't sweep it under the
No,
rug.
not at all.
We've got more from Danielle Jackson coming up on our 10 o'clock news on WSMV4. Thank you so much for being with us here at WSMV4 Now.
All right, we'll say goodnight.